This is the No BS Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Shanks. In this show, we look behind the curtain of financial services to find answers to the biggest questions no one is asking. Join me as I welcome industry influencers, outside business leaders, and inspirational game changers for real, no BS conversations that will challenge you to think big. I want to motivate you to find purpose and fulfillment in your career. Now on to the show. Hello and welcome to the No BS Podcast. My name is Ryan Shanks and I'm your host. Today, I'm really excited to welcome our guest, Jason Lahita. Jason is a husband and father. He's a founding partner of Street Cred Communications. Street Cred's service offering includes comprehensive public relations, counsel, and execution. Jason was formerly Chief Communications Officer for Integrated Partners, an RIA with $12 billion in AUM and 50 offices nationwide. He was also a marketing manager for United Capital from their inception to $12 billion in AUM. And today our topic is, are industry awards a load of crap? Jason, how are you, brother?
I am good, sir. Thanks for having me on. And what a fantastic topic, and a spicy one at that.
It's a little spicy. Yeah. I don't know whether we need like a spicy margarita, maybe some Mexican food to get into this topic.
Hey, it's 1 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm good to go. 10 a.m. for me, but hey, who's tracking? Let's do it.
That's exactly right. Well, listen, I'm really glad to have you joining me. So what I want to start off with is why did you want to get into marketing and communications for the financial services industry?
Well, it was a happy accident. I consider myself very lucky. When I moved to Los Angeles in 2004, I was very fortunate that my wife knew someone who was working for the brother-in-law of a guy named Joe Duran at United Capital. It was actually before United Capital even officially launched, which was 2005. So I started working for Joe pre-launch. Just got very lucky that the timing lined up. I didn't have anything going for me when I moved out here. My wife was a TV producer. Made perfect sense that she's coming out to LA, do some TV production in Burbank. And I was just tagging along. So I met this gentleman. We had some good interviews, some good chats. Joe blew me away with his vision for what he was doing at United Capital. He's incredibly charismatic. And I was very lucky to jump on the United Capital train as it was just leaving the station.
That's pretty awesome. And what a ride it was, right?
It was. And it wasn't just getting in the door with Joe. He was also the type of entrepreneur that would give people a shot, give you a chance to succeed, take a risk on people. At the time, I had zero financial services experience, zero marketing experience, no PR experience, certainly. And he said, you know what, I'm going to give you a shot at this. You come in early, you stay late, you work your butt off, and let's see how you do and don't screw it up. So flash forward 5 years later, 5+ years later, and I was running marketing and PR at the company. And fortunately, I did make mistakes, of course, all over the place, but learned from them pretty quickly, tried not to repeat them. And that launched my career in financial services marcoms.
Wow, that's super cool. Yeah, I always joke that Joe is so engaging. He's got such an ability to sort of win over a room, whether it's 2 or 3 people or it's 100. But I also think that a reality about United Capital is that, and I used to joke, there's no shadows that you can hide in at United Capital. The transparency, like you were either producing or you were gone in whatever role that was. And so it sounds like you were there from the very, very get-go, and perhaps you were involved with some of that structure. So that's super cool.
Yeah, 100%. And it was particularly when it started off, there were 4 of us in a small office in Westwood, which is just next to Santa Monica in LA. The company then moved to Newport Beach not long thereafter. But yeah, there was nowhere to hide. You were either getting after it, working hard, learning, advancing, evolving as the company evolved, or you were not. And it was just a dynamic experience. The expectations were extremely high. Joe was a tough boss, but he was a very fair boss. And that's how you learn. I learned PR by doing. I didn't have formal training. I was a history major. I know how to fix naval avionics. I had no experience in financial services PR. So just to be given that opportunity to be entrusted with the responsibility of taking the United Capital message to reporters getting them to buy into the story, to the model, what we were doing nationally, what our advisors were doing regionally. It's a huge responsibility. PR it's pretty intense stuff. You are guarding and protecting someone's credibility and their perception publicly. That is a big responsibility. So to be given that with that little experience at that time, it was a lot of luck, and I had a great boss and a great mentor, and he remains a mentor of mine and a friend of mine to this day.
That's great, man. I love that. So speaking of avionics technician, you were an avionics technician for the U.S. Navy. Did that experience trigger something in you that is applied to how you manage your business?
Well, if you ask my team that question, everyone that works with me at Street Cred PR, in fact, we were having a happy hour last night and everyone was having a laugh. We use a lot of acronyms around here. I think that a lot of that stems from the military background. Some of those are pretty spicy. Can't mention them here, but it did shape me. But frankly, I always say that the Navy did more for me than I did for the Navy, in terms of signing up. I was really lost coming out of high school. I took a shot at college right out of high school. I wasn't ready to do so. I look at some kids these days that my family knows the kid takes a year off before deciding where they want to go to school. I should have been that kid. I sort of jumped in with no preparation. I was not ready. I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. And I went to school in upstate New York and promptly failed out, shown the door after 1 year. So obviously parents were none too pleased with that. Moved back to northern New Jersey with my tail between my legs, and was promptly asked to get out of the house, go get a job and experience the real world, because they certainly weren't going to be supporting any more attempts at college based on the first one. So it wasn't long after that where I realized I was going nowhere and I needed a kick in the butt, and the Navy seemed like a great option. I'd always had a fondness for the ocean, for interested in the military, collected G.I. Joe figures as a kid, so I was still naive. When I enlisted in the Navy, I had no idea what I was getting into, but it got me squared away. So that's a military term, but got my act together pretty quick. Boot camp will do that to you. Being given responsibility to lead guys in boot camp will do that to you. And then the Navy's good at training people to do just about anything. So I spent 6 months in avionics school, learning how to fix F-14s, F-18s, all the aircraft that are on a carrier. And it really helped get me going in the right direction. I went back to school at Florida Community College at Jacksonville when I was stationed down there. Got straight A's. So that terrible GPA, I think it's like a 1.4 GPA at St. Lawrence University, which was, you got to work to have a GPA that bad. You really have to try. So Florida Community College was just a whole different ball game. Got my act together. When my enlisted ended, went to NYU, finished up undergrad, and did well there. So, it really changed my life for the better. And it really shapes a lot of my thinking these days in terms of leadership, structure, training, focus. We talk about a lot of these things at Street Cred in terms of how we serve clients and how we want to represent ourselves and how we work. So yeah, it was a major, major influence in my life for sure.
Wow. I bet it also put things in perspective from a gratitude alignment, right? Like you had kind of gone down one path, and you realize, oh my gosh, either I'm going to get back on track or I'm going to be hustling and never really catching up. And kudos to you for having the foresight to jump into that. What are your general thoughts about the industry awards in our industry? That's obviously the topic today. So I'd love to just kind of start really high level, how you feel about it just in general.
I don't have anything against the industry awards. I think you need to look at them for what they are. First of all, I'm a PR guy. The industry awards are a fantastic publicity tool. They drive perception. If you win an industry award, you can leverage that for marketing purposes. And that's encouraged. You look at the websites for the various industry awards. They encourage companies to use the award should they win. Even if you become a finalist, they're helping you to get the word out on the street that you are a finalist. And there's some cachet to that. It's it's good. It's good perception. People perceive an award winner to have done something special. So that's great. It's interesting though, because it is a bit of a gray area where PR and the media and marketing and advertising all intersect. They all come together. Like typically these are areas where everyone's doing their thing and they're collaborating and they're working together, but they don't coalesce and align in the way that they do with regard to industry awards. And particularly with publications that sponsor the awards, it's, they're great. They're great events. They're good visibility, but it's tough for the editorial teams because they have to keep a wall between their editorial coverage of the industry at large and then giving those same folks who are in their stories accolades and awards for being great companies. So, I don't envy their position in that regard, but I do see the value in the awards. I don't think, as the topic of this podcast indicates, that they are a load of crap. I know it's just a question. You're not saying they are a load of crap. I don't believe they are. I think there's real value there, but you have to understand the nature of the beast.
Do you think the process by which a lot of these awards decide who the winners are is appropriate? Or should it be structured so that the industry itself votes on the winners versus perhaps like a private panel of people?
It's a great question. And I think it's a great idea. I think it has a lot of merit to put an open, sort of like the, professional sports and voting for the All-Stars. Who's getting a lot of the votes? How often can you vote? What's the process for voting? A lot of factors go in there as well. The media plays a role there too. But I think that's a very interesting concept. I think the publications do a pretty good job of having judges involved who can be objective. If you look at it's very easy to see who the judges are for any of these awards. You just go to the award website and the entire roster of the judges is right there. I think that it's an interesting thing when you look at the lineup of judges, because you have to ask yourself, okay, is this judge completely impartial, or are they working with someone that's also nominating themselves for an award? Are they putting their finger on the scale a little bit? I don't know the answer to that. I would like to think no, that it's all completely objective and impartial, but that may be wishful thinking. I think that most of them are going in without conflict. I think the publications should focus in. And again, I don't know what their process is for selecting a judge. I don't know, what the criteria is to become a judge other than being tapped by the publishing team at the various publications. But they have to just be very cognizant of the fact that the judge should be conflict free. That aside, it's still a PR and marketing exercise at the end of the day, which is ironic because it's a lot of the publications are, the editorial teams are involved in the award shows. But it is very much a PR and marketing exercise, and advertising and sponsorship exercise. So while the awards certainly do have merit and it can be used and leveraged to the advantage of those who win them, you really have to, you got to be aware of the judging process, what the criteria are, and do your best to keep that wall between. Here's a great example. I could not be a judge for any publications awards. Why? Street Cred has 24 clients, all of whom are very qualified to win those awards. If I went into the room to judge I'm incapable of being impartial when it comes to our clients. I'm absolutely going to advocate for our clients versus another PR agency's clients. That's just the way it is. And I'm being totally honest. So could I judge impartially if one of my clients, say I have a CRM client and they're up against two other CRM clients? Am I going to be impartial in judging them? Absolutely not. So, I don't qualify to be a judge, and I shouldn't. And I'm glad that I'm not a judge and have not been asked to be a judge. But I think that's the criteria. You have to look at who is judging. Are they impartial? Do they have skin in the game? And if the answer is no, then great, you qualify to be a judge. But I love your idea of opening it up more broadly to the industry in terms of voting. I like that a lot. I just
think you remove any of that potential conflict. And I think you're right. I think can you look at any of the lineups of judges for any of the awards, and can you without a doubt say that none of them behind scenes are working with anyone that's sort of in the nomination? I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of overlap there. Call it conflict. And that's my whole reason for, should it be opened up to the entirety of the industry to where they've got a small sleeve of the vote, but there's a peer group in the industry, perhaps users of a CRM, for example, that could potentially have a say. Here's a question for you. Do we need a 50 under 50 as we continue to get older?
100%. And I've been hoping that a 50 under 50 would sprout up for years. I mean, 50's clearly the new 40, maybe even the new 30s. So I would love to see that. Unfortunately, I'm now rapidly hurtling towards the 50 mark myself.
I'm right there with you. So you know what? Hold on. Let's step back. Maybe 60 under 60.
I think
right, let's give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, we got a little more runway there to play with. If it was 50 under 50, I'm looking at maybe 2 years on the clock here. So I think I need a little more time to make an impression.
I mean, I love the 40 under 40. It's sort of been structured that way forever. But the truth is, as we get older in the business, and you and I both love this business, we're passionate about this industry and the people and we want to elevate the game. But so much of our peer group, they're over 40. Right. So you're kind of sitting there and I'm excited about it. Everyone always wins it in that class, but it'd be interesting if there was some sort of a capture point where, there's folks that are maybe closer in our circle that are sort of tied in with that. If you were to create an industry awards, how would you think about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like the categories that they have out there. I think keeping the companies in the various verticals, they do a pretty good job of looking at the financial technology players versus the asset managers versus the RIAs. And I don't have any issue with the way they're currently categorized. I think at the end of the day, it's a small industry. That we're looking at all these folks and interacting with them on social media and watching them interact with the press and get covered in the media every single week. So I think that the way that the publications out there, the industry awards are configured today, view them, examine them, categorize them, I think it's well done. I don't have any problem with that. I think the editorial teams at the publications who get involved and again, try to keep that separation, that wall between their editorial coverage and the advertising nature of it. I think they understand all these companies quite well. They're talking to the spokespeople every day. They're interacting with the companies consistently. They're reading all the press releases, or I hope they're reading all the press releases anyway that come across their desk. So, I think in terms of the way that the awards are structured, they're pretty comprehensive. If you look at the Wealth Management Awards and the recently launched Think Advisor Luminaries Awards, you can see they've got a pretty well segmented, and they're covering a large swath of the financial services industry, if not the entire financial services industry.
So let's talk about that gray area, right? That blurry line around editorial and advertising. So some industry awards are requiring finalists to pay in order to be acknowledged, which creates awareness for them. Is that too close to a pay-to-play scenario so that only the larger firms who can afford it will get the accolades?
It's an interesting question. I think if I could put myself in the shoes of the editorial teams at the publications, they would probably say, we don't require them to pay to win the award. Again, I'm a PR guy, so I deal in perception and how people view not only our clients, but what's going on in the industry and how they perceive trends and topics, things of that nature. So I do think there's a perception out there that exists that in order to really win, to really be considered, you have to get involved financially. Now, I don't have any evidence that that's the case. But again, there's perception out there that that's the way it is. Now,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think if that is the case, it's a gray zone and everyone knows it. So you don't go in there to get your award. And, even if a company knows they So let's say they've been sponsoring at a publication for the last decade, and all the awards are fairly recent, right? So do they all of a sudden stop advertising because they want to win an award? No, they shouldn't have to do that. But, should they have to spend extra cash in order to get the award to go to the event? No, they shouldn't have to do that either. But then again, like we talked about earlier, it's the confluence of PR, marketing, advertising, and media. So if you win the award, then it can be leveraged for many reasons. For optics, it's a morale booster for your company. It's something you can put on your logo. It's something you can put on your website. We call PR credibility marketing at Street Cred. It's credibility. Even if you have to buy it, you're buying credibility. You can leverage that for sales and marketing purposes and to help grow your business. So at the end of the day, I think if it's acknowledged that that's what it is, and again, getting back to looking at the judges, and I know many of the judges, and I know they're great people, and they have their own industry chops, and I respect them tremendously. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going in and they're being impartial and they're doing the right thing and they're making the right call. And yeah, if there happens to be the gray zone, the overlap of like you've also bought full page ads historically in a publication, or get the banner ads up, or your sponsored webinars, or whatever else it is that you're doing, or you spend a lot of money on the event itself. Okay, that's part of the game. And that's what it is. So I think it's okay for that gray zone to exist as long as everyone acknowledges that it does exist.
Thank you for that. What about when you're acknowledged as a finalist and perhaps there's, not winners decided, there's sort of financial packages around advertising to actually create the awareness that you're a finalist or that you're a winner. And if you don't pay it, we're not going to really acknowledge you the same way. So it's essentially, we're going to give out awards and we're going to give out finalists, and then we're going to have you flood in on the advertising side of the ledger for us to be able to go out and tell the marketplace about that. Do you think that it's the publication or anyone that's putting on the awards responsibility to bear that underlying cost to create parity across the industry, that these are all equals? They were all in these categories being sort of viewed as finalists or winners. What are your thoughts about that?
The short answer is yeah. I think in a perfect world, it would be great if you did not have to spend extra money to be promoted as a finalist. And then if that perception did not exist, that if you didn't pay the right amount, that you have zero chance of winning. It would be great if that perception was gone. I don't know. I don't have the answer for the publications in terms of how to solve that. Here's what I do know is the publications are getting beaten up. They need money. Journalists are typically not paid commensurate with how hard they work and what they do on a daily basis. Just the grind, the constant deadlines, the pressure. They're not compensated fairly for the amount that they pour in, and the publications are trying everything humanly possible to make more money, particularly as the digital landscape keeps evolving, the print landscape keeps shrinking. Some publications still do a great job of having a print edition along with the digital, which I think is still important and still important certainly to our clients. And I think and people like to feel a hard copy on their desk and see themselves on the cover of a magazine and actually be able to hold it in their hand instead of just having a digital version. But the reality is the digital age of the media has flipped everything on its head. The publications have to create like 10 times the amount of content that they did 10 or 15 years ago with about half of the resources. They don't have enough journalists to possibly cover everything that's going on. And then look what happened during the pandemic to the publishing industry. A lot of these publications got totally screwed because the pandemic, first of all, beat everyone up globally. But if you were a publication that was heading in to the teeth of the tempest and you were putting a lot of your chips in the events basket and everything was about events and sponsors at events and speakers at events physically on site, then you're in pretty bad shape. You know, you needed to call an audible and make some adjustments. So I don't fault the publications for wanting to make money. They have to make money. They got to pay the good people that they have covering the industry. But again, yeah, it's a perception issue. And I think, and listen, another thing with awards, people who don't win awards are upset, right? So anytime when you do win an award, you get excited and you can leverage it. If you don't win, and I'm sure there are cases of folks that have paid to hope in hopes that they would win and they didn't. Historically, you know I have clients from way back that I know did buy tables at events, at award events. And they went in there sort of naively thinking that because they sponsored at a certain level or had a table that they were giving themselves an advantage. And then they didn't win. And let me tell you something, that's awkward. Like when you're sitting next to a client at a show and they've spent like 30 grand to sponsor something and then they don't get the award. Like if you think someone's pissed that like they didn't spend any money and they didn't win, if you did spend the money and you didn't win, I guarantee you that angst is accelerated substantially. So it's
I'm investing into the conflict. Damn it. Why am I not winning this?
I paid my money.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, look, we've been finalists with FA Match for a number of years, you know, the Wealth Management Awards. And I've always looked at it and said, I don't care if I win. I'm just so grateful to be part of the mix.
That's
with some phenomenal brands that have been around in the industry forever. So again, but I want to be able to kind of analyze that and figure out, is there a more clear path forward around, you know, and maybe there's an opportunity to create another awards. Well, right. And maybe there's an opportunity to maybe do it a little bit different than how they're doing it. And I appreciate your comments around the publications and what's gone on there. You know, I know a lot of these writers for these publications, you know, Wealth Management Awards were really one of the first to come out and really start to do it as a publication, and kudos to them, because you're really putting your neck out there on the line that this is what we're going to do. Everybody's going to be looking at us and judging us. And because of the success of what they've done, you've got others following in line, right? And they're coming out with their own.
There are a couple of things that you said I think are fantastic. So number one, opening the voting up more broadly. You can still have judges. You can still have media folks voting as well. Again, just like they do in professional sports. Beat writers in professional sports are the ones that vote, and their vote counts a little more than Joe Public. But we all feel like we're participating in voting for Hall of Famers or voting for, well, not Hall of Famers, but voting for all-stars and participating in the process, even if that's just perception. But I think it's a great concept to make it feel more inclusive. Like you do have a shot if enough folks in the industry really love your brand and your message and your values, that you've got a good shot to get some extra love and to give yourself an adrenaline shot when it comes to winning an award. I think that's a phenomenal idea. And I hope that some of these publications listen to this and they consider it. I think it's a great call. And then I think the second thing that I love that you just said, Ryan, is when you go into these awards, you go in with the right mental attitude and viewing it for what it is. It's great publicity. It's great networking. It's an opportunity to rub shoulders with industry luminaries, to borrow the term from Think Advisor's new award show. It's an opportunity to see and be seen and to participate in the energy of the industry, just like it is at any other industry conference, where there is no discussion of conflict or perception because everything is on the table there. You're simply, do you want a booth or do you not want a booth? We're not going to give you an award, but we want you to come and hear our speakers and network and participate in the vibe of this event. And there's no awards show, but everyone goes to an industry conference looking to hang out with one another, to hear some interesting stuff about industry trends, to learn, and to just get in on the action. Now, that were the perception and the objective around the awards, and I understand that the very nature of an award show prevents that from being the perception, but that's the right approach. Go for the camaraderie, and if you win, great, it's a bonus. But just get a seat at the table and go hang out with people in the industry that are doing some really cool things. Get your brand visible and enjoy it. And don't worry about winning.
Question for you. Have you won any of these industry awards?
No. Absolutely not. We're PR folks. So PR people are meant to live in the shadows, and we are happiest when we are in the background helping our clients to win the awards. I would
You're
feel
behind the
very
curtain, making it all happen.
I would just be uncomfortable winning an award. Our entire purpose is to promote our clients and to help them win awards and get them the recognition. And we don't need the recognition. They recognize us. They enjoy working with us. They know how much we love them and we're promoting them. That's good enough for me. Working with the reporters every single day, all week, and we're enjoying that. So we're in the background doing our thing, and we do not need any pat on the back or accolades for that.
Who are you picking for the Super Bowl?
Sadly, I'm a Giants fan. I always have been. I'm from New York, New Jersey area. By the way, it's very sad. And we've had a paper bag over our head for a number of years, but now I live in LA, so I got to go Rams on this one. I do like the Bengals. I like Joe Burrow. I think they're exciting. I think it's going to be hopefully an exciting Super Bowl, unlike the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl against the Pats, and it was like the lowest scoring, most boring Super Bowl I've ever seen. I think that this will hopefully at least give people a thrill. I know a lot of folks in the LA area who are all in on the Rams and very excited about this one, and it's here in our own backyard. So I'll be all in on the Rams as well, but I'm just hoping for a good game. How about you?
That's great. Yeah, so I'm a Cowboys fan. So I'm all about having 14 seconds. Let's call a middle of the field play with no timeouts, and then let's set the ball. No, but listen, I'm with you. I'm a big Stafford fan.
Yeah.
I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's a phenomenal teammate. I think he deserves it. So I'd like to see them pull it out.
It's nice to see him do well. And, he's always been a good quarterback, and he's just kind of languishing in Detroit. So to see him come out here and get a shot and get some playoff activity, and Sean McVay, I think, is a fantastic coach. What he's been able to do. Talk about 40 under 40. That guy, it's just like phenomenal. I think he is under 40.
Isn't he still under 30?
It's like 22. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do and have that level of success at that age. So good for the whole Rams team, and we'll see what happens, man.
So how can our industry learn more about Street Cred and the great work you're doing?
Thanks for that question. I think, again, we get excited when folks learn about our clients. And by doing right by our clients, everything else falls into place. So we don't need to bang our own drum, toot our own horn. Our managing partner, Jimmy Moak, and I have been doing this for combined over 40 years. We both have a history with United Capital and Joe. When I left United Capital and joined an international PR agency, that was my first agency experience, actually from the inside. Who took over the United Capital PR? Jimmy did. And he never let go. He worked for Joe Duran at United Capital up to the day he joined Street Cred in March of last year. We've been doing this for a while. We love what we do. We try to instill that same joy with regard to practicing PR in our team. PR can be really stressful. It can be a tough business. You're under pressure to deliver for clients. You are out there in the public view representing clients. Like we talked about at the top of the show, when Joe gave me a shot to take United Capital out in the public realm, I had zero experience, was terrified, and there was a lot riding on that media coverage early days of the model and what they were doing. Now I have a lot more experience, but there's no less pressure. And now instead of representing one company from the inside, we represent 24 and counting. We have a team of 10. And I'm biased, but nobody in financial PR works harder than our team. They're incredible. So for us, the action is where it's at. We're PR geeks. We love it. We talk about, in fact, later today, we have a PR workshop that we have every 2 weeks. We're going to talk about best practices around press releases and constructing them and getting journalists to pay attention to them and what works, what doesn't work. We just love what we do. And we love our clients. I think that's also a key thing for us. If all you're interested in as a PR agency is the money and taking clients in and trying to get big retainers, and then doing as little as possible in exchange for those retainers, and then just always hunting for the next client, you will not be very good at what you do. You can't be. So here, it's very important to us that when we take a client on, we believe in them. We always say PR is personal. This is emotional. It's visceral. When you're representing someone, whether they're up for an award or not, you're putting them in the media, you got to believe. And if you believe in them, if you believe in their message and their values and what they're bringing to the industry, you're going to be a hell of a lot better as a PR practitioner than as if you were just phoning it in or just looking at the check they're writing you every month for their retainer. So that's our approach and our ethos. We treat PR like the sports of marketing. Speaking of sports, we get out on the field, we play hard, we prepare to play the game, we play the game hard and fast. We analyze after the game in terms of what we did well, what we can be doing better. We help our clients to do the same, and we're just enjoying it. We haven't even been in business for a year and a half, despite how much experience we have doing this in the industry. But we brought on a phenomenal team and just an inspired team that does inspired work. So it's been a fun ride, and all I can say is it's all about our clients. It's pretty easy to see who our clients are. If you go to follow our Twitter handle, you can see us promoting them all day, every day, and the press releases we're putting out. So I think that's the bottom line. Enjoy it. Take something that's inherently stressful, like public relations and guarding clients' perception, promoting them, protecting them, working with the press every day. It's an adrenaline shot. It's the adrenaline of marketing. It's the sports of marketing. And we're loving the ride.
That's great. What is a profession that you would be doing if you weren't working in financial services?
That's a great question. When I got out of the Navy, I was an enlisted guy, and I spent 4 years in. And when I got out and finished undergrad, I wanted to go back in as an officer. So that would be it. I always think back, what kind of a career would I have had as a naval officer? And now approaching 50, frankly, I'd probably be retired by now. Like those guys, you put in your 20 plus and you're good to go. You can hang up your cleats and then go get a cush consulting job doing something. But I did love the Navy and that experience. And I had always wanted to go back in, but life pulled me in a different direction. I moved out to LA with my girlfriend at the time, who would become my wife. And she didn't have an interest in being a Navy wife. And then I met Joe Duran, and then my career went in another direction. And so, now we got 2 kids here in LA, and the naval ship has sailed, no pun intended. So
that's a pretty fascinating story. I didn't know that about you. I mean, we spent a lot of time getting to know each other through the years, and it's really cool to learn that about you. Are you, from an organizational perspective, closet at home? Are you making a bed like are you still kind of dialed in with all that, or?
No, my wife makes fun of me all the time. I actually have a book by Admiral McRaven, who is the head of all of military special forces. He's a Navy SEAL, and he wrote a book, and it's called Make Your Bed. And he gives you a whole bunch of life tips. And the first one is every single morning when you wake up, make your bed. And that gets you started to have a good day. So my wife saw me reading this book, and she's like, what's your number one takeaway? Because you literally never make your bed ever. When you get up in the morning, it's just a disaster. So she's like, I hope that you take that to heart and actually make your damn bed. That would be great. But no, I'm, I try to stay organized, try to stay focused. We have a pretty good disciplined approach to PR that has some military undertones to it, but that's a whole different animal. But I just am thankful for what the Navy gave me in terms of discipline, direction, and helping me to get my act together so that I could, in fact, finish undergrad and then get lucky enough to meet a guy like Joe.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm hopeful that I'm going to see you on the road at some point this year. And again, thank you for coming on, and thank you for being so transparent and honest with us.
Thank you, Ryan. And I know you just by nature of this show, FA Match probably naturally gets a plug every single time you do the show, but congrats to you and what you've built. I know we both know a bunch of people in common who are actually working with you at the present moment. They all have nothing but the highest level of respect for you and what you've built. Now you're adding real value to their businesses. Now you're working with some of the Street Cred clients, and you're just crushing it. So congrats on FA Match and how you've disrupted advisor recruiting for the better, and everything that you've built. It's really one aspires to do something as innovative and cool as you have done.
Follow the No BS podcast with Ryan Shanks to make sure you know when a new show is ready for you. And of course, share with friends and colleagues. You'll probably impress them. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of FA Match. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.